disruptive.
America that I fought for.
Weird thing to happen. Hello, one and all. Welcome to this edition of Kitz Corner. Hope you're having a fantastic day so far. So while we're talking about shills and failures and people strawmanning for the establishment, the evil oligarchy, and their draconian measures to sell themselves out for a career move, let's bring up the Young Turks. Because the Young Turks are back in the headlines after this revelating tale from one of their recent episodes or newscasts, whatever you call it, where apparently TYT is going to strawman and say that the CIA, even though it's a organization that has done the most evil and continues to do the most evil, has now turned a new leaf. Apparently, there's a soul revelating, they had an epiphany. And now TYT, instead of actually investigating what the CIA's actions are in the everyday involvement of our lives and the occupation of military tactics, they're now going to paint the picture of the CIA being wholesome. And it goes a little something like this.
There was a time in America where the State Department the Pentagon would orchestrate and carry out coups in, Latin American countries, for instance, or in Iran. Like, there was a time when the government engaged in all sorts of unsavory schemes across the globe.
And that's still continuing to this day. That's still continuing to this day. It's not once upon a time. It's not like a one and done deal. That is still happening to this day. Still happening right now. The wars that we're fighting right now are because of those schemes. We would not be fighting these wars if it wasn't for the actions of the involvements of the security state, if it wasn't for the military contractors, if it wasn't for the military industrial complex, if it wasn't for Wall Street bankers, if it wasn't for the global empire, if it wasn't for the WEF. We would not be in the terrible situations that we'd be in right now if it wasn't for their schematics that they're still continuing to this day. So no, it hasn't turned a new leaf. They're not changing their flow. It's just now they're rebranding themselves to being this woke state. You go to the CIA and now it's all, LGBTQ and openness and, we love all kinds of people, diversity. It's still the same grotesque, evil surveillance state that is used to oppress you. That has not changed whatsoever.
Definitely true, okay? That's not the government we have today. How does anyone look at honestly, I don't think the current federal government is even competent enough to carry out a coup. I mean, they tried multiple times in Venezuela and failed. And the way.
Yeah, you know why it failed? You know why it failed? Because the people saw right through that and they stood up against it. And that is why right now they are doing more censorship tactics to prevent that from happening. They don't want people like Venezuela to stand up against regime change. They don't want Canadian truckers to stand up against authoritarian mandates. They don't want farmers to rise against horrible climate policies. They don't want people to be informed so they can't stand up and rise against the draconian measures that are being placed to use against them. That's why they're putting on these tactics. That's why they're censoring more people to keep them out of the dark so they would not allow people to rise up against. And they're vilifying people. That's what the whole January 6th was about. They want to separate. They want to divide. They want us to butt heads constantly. They don't want us united. They don't want us to be acknowledged. They don't want us to know things. And they want to keep us in the dark, just like the Dark Ages back in the day. This has been going out throughout human history. This is what people need to understand. This has been going out throughout human history. That there's always going to be higher-ups that want to keep the peasants, the plebes, the people underneath, the working class public out of the dark. They want to throw them under the bus. They want to just keep them smart enough to work the gears, but not understand why they're getting exploited to work those gears. That's been the case throughout human history. And that's why 99.9% of problems is not a left versus right issue. It's an up-down issue. It's the upper class. It's the elitists. It's the the draconian authoritarianisms, the fascist state that we're in right now, that's used to oppress us.
Some of the MAGA Republicans, quite honestly, talk about the federal government. Makes me think, oh my God, they're asleep at the wheel. They don't understand just how incompetent the federal government is. They can't get anything straight. They can't get anything straight. And you guys think that they're wiretapping you and they're scheming and they're planning.
And why is that, Anna? Why is that? Why do you think Joe Biden, who ran in 2020 and was voted the worst candidate in the primary, had such a low score that even Cory Booker, that even Michael Bloomberg, who came at last minute to the primary, was having a higher score than Joe Biden? Why do you think he's the president right now? Why do you think they took the lowest approved guy in the Democratic primary in 2020 and made him the president? Why do you think they picked a demented circus freak as the head of state? Maybe it's because they want us to be distracted. They want an incompetent buffoon that could be easily folded to the deep state that's really running this country. Maybe that's something to do with that. But that would require journalism. And we know how you treat journalists. We know how you treated Aramonte. We know how you went against Jimmy Dore. We know how you went against other people that have actually took the time to investigate, to research, to actually look into the studies and tell you the information that you are shilling away from because your corporate owners, Jeffrey Katzenberg, and Democratic donors are displeased with the idea of informing your audience. They want to keep their audience in the dark. It's also hilarious. I just noticed that now. The Chiron at the bottom. So this is about, I guess this is right around the story where they talked about Tucker Carlson going out to Russia to interview Vladimir Putin. And everyone thought that was crazy. Everyone thought that was nuts. That a journalist going overseas to interview a foreign leader is the most barbaric thing ever. Because TYT would never leave their studio. I've never seen TYT at this point ever actually interview anyone outside. I've never seen TYT actually interview and talk and actually speak to people outside their studio. But Tucker Carlson is the god-awful person because as a journalist, him going over to Russia and investigate for what Russia really is it's too barbaric for them.
Planning on throwing Tucker Carlson in prison for talking to Vladimir Putin? Really?
Yeah.
Come on.
I mean, look, man, I interviewed the CIA agent a long time ago, about now nearly 10 years ago. It was a really amazing interview. She told me about honeypot schemes and stuff and how they trick their targets into thinking that they're going to get a sexual relationship. Like, it was an amazing, very candid interview. And she's like, look, this.
So Cenk Uygur just admitted that he spoke to the CIA in an interview, had an eye-opening interview about how awful the CIA is, while they're about to do a segment by saying that the CIA has changed. Oh, it's not like it used to be. It's not like, oh, it's not this authoritarian measure. It's not actually used against people. What? You just had an interview with a CIA agent that just explained to you how corrupted it is, how corrupted the agency is, how this agency is not used to secure you. It's nothing to do with national security. It's national exploitation. Wow.
This whole thing, and that deep state stuff on the right wing hadn't started yet. But she's like, the number one problem with the CIA is they've become bureaucrats. And
the number one problem with the CIA is they become bureaucrats. I'd say the number one problem with the CIA, and this is what I feel like the only person really to mention about this, maybe RFK Jr. To some degree, because he's worried that the CIA could do the same thing that it did to his uncle and his father. But Remember the Kennedy days when they openly stated that the CIA became so corrupted, it became so engulfed, it became so powerful in dark and secrecy that it needs to stop. It needs to be broken up. And now you have politicians like Chuck Schumer going on to MSNBC announcing to the President of the United States, you have to obey by the CIA. The CIA doesn't have to obey by the president, but they're saying that the CIA, the president has to abide the CIA. That is how powerful, money-hungering, warmongering piece of garbage this institution is. That's how dangerous this institution is. And they know it. They know it. But TYT has been bought out for a while now. TYT has been chilling for that darkness for a while now. That is, they've really just exposed them further to being the straw men that they are. And let's just remind people that the CIA, once upon a time, as Ann would say, once upon a time, that was a long time ago. But this is still going on to this day. U.S. military and CIA interventions since World War II. That's all the places that they have occupied or try to evade or try to seize some sort of action to these other nations. And whether it's a target, whether it's bombing, whether it's taking down their leader to put a dictator in, steal their natural resources, whatever the case may be. This idea that somehow the CIA has turned another cheek because, oh, they're woke or they're diverse and they give a damn about security or safety or any shit like that is garbage. Every time they do something like this, it threatens national security. It jeopardizes our national stability. Every single time they do this. But they don't care about their responsibilities. They don't care about their obligations. They care about their power. Their power-hungry, money-thumping, warmongering piece of garbage. They are empty. They are vile. They are liars. They are pathetic thugs. That's what even Mike Pompeo said. Mike Pompeo openly stated to an audience that the CIA taught him to lie, steal, cheat, manipulate, propagandize. He doesn't care. No one cares when you're at the CIA. You have a cushy job. You get to play around with computers. And you may get to blow up a couple things. Woohoo! But they don't care. They never care. They will never care. Or how about, just recently, let's discuss how the CIA played a key role in January 6th. How the intelligence community purposely had insiders in the supposed insurrection that took down democracy to play us like suckers. How about we discuss that, Anna Kasparian? How about we bring that to spotlight? Because, the CIA, once upon a time, they were evil, but now they're somewhat okay because the government is so incompetent. How can they do something wrong when they're so incompetent? No, the reason that they're incompetent and they have someone like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris is because Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are easy puppets for them. Same with Justin Trudeau. They don't want someone like Donald Trump because Donald Trump's a bit of a wild card. He's not easily tamed as Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or Hillary Clinton or the Obamas or anyone else in the establishment. That's what makes them truly, truly evil. This guy, Tony Figs, points out Jeffrey Katzenberg, one of the top HRC fundraisers, Hillary Clinton donors, along with other corporate investors, gave TYT $20 million and dollar signs for eyeballs. Cenk Uygur lapped it up. Then, when Jimmy Dore and buzzsaw Aaron Mate came along and TYT subscriptions tanked, bad investment, jerk-offs. So, when TYT sold themselves out. And Cenk Uygur knew he was going to sell himself out. He always wanted that network of CNN, MSNBC. He always wanted that vision of being this corporate network. Even when he used to work at a corporate network and got fired off and he started TYT because he wanted that TYT network to grow to be that corporate network. He sold out the company. He sold everybody out. And then people like Jimmy Dore and Aaron Mate, who were actually doing investigative journalism because they were outside the network. Jimmy Dore went off and decided, screw you to TYT. Aaron Mate did his own independent research and became his own investigator. And they done credible journalism. Aaron Mate has won awards for the amount of coverage that he's covered when it came to Syria, when it came to Venezuela, when it came to Ukraine, when it comes to right now Israel-Palestine, when it comes to any of this. Aaron Mate is a credible journalist who actually investigates because he actually gives a damn about giving you vital information. TYT, Cenk Uygur, and Kasparian, none of that matters to them. It's about the eyeballs. It's about getting the attention. Because they're a bunch of ego-fragile freaks. They don't care. They do not care. They will never care. And the only reason that they're bringing attention of how the CIA is such a great force now, because, now they turn the other cheek, is because they're reaching out for more donors. They're reaching out and begging and pleading for more donors because they know that TYT is failing. They know that TYT is tanking. They know that they're not getting the views that they used to do. They're not getting the subscription base that they used to have. And everything about them is slowly failing, is slowly crumbling down beneath them. They're losing their audience. Their audience is even turned against them because of the utter stupidity that these two have come up with. The utter stupidity that they blurred out to their own audience, vilifying their own audience, so they can reach out to more donors. Do they seem like the progressive network that they used to be? Or maybe that whole progressive network idea was just a facade. Maybe that whole TYT network being the outsider organization that they pick people up, including me. Because I first saw them back in like 2015, 2016, and I thought, okay, they're decent. They're a decent network. They're a decent news broadcast. I didn't realize I was going to turn into this. I didn't realize that now it's perfectly clear that TYT is a garbage organization. Here's even this, just for anti-Kasparian's sake, for how great the CIA is doing right now. The spy war, how the CIA secretly helps Ukraine fight Putin. Right now. No coverage on this. No investigation on how the intelligence community used Ukraine as cannon fodder to have a manufactured war, a Cold War stance against Russia. None of that being mentioned. So let's not forget. This is what TYT was famous for, and this is kind of the journalism expertise that Cenk Uygur and Kasparian are well known for. And this is kind of what started this roller coaster of exposing them for the corporate shills that they have become. That they were so destined, they were so money hungry, they were so ego fragile that they slid towards the corporate establishment. They sold out their own audience. They sold out their own company. They sold out their entire organization in order to have a slush fund of corporate donors that are backing the Democratic Party, backing the establishment, and epitomizing against true journalists like Aaron Mate or Julian Assange. Because they went after him saying that he was a Trumper. Julian Assange, one of the greatest journalists to walk the earth. And this is what kind of journalistic efforts that TYT is well known for when it came to Aaron Mate exposing the real truth behind Syria, behind Libya, behind Venezuela, behind Ukraine. This is what TYT, this is what their investigations led to.
They said Aaron Mate yelled at me. And so
Aaron Mate lied. Aaron Mate. Everyone cares what Aaron Mate has to say, right?
okay.
The guy who denies that Syrian children were killed with chemical attacks. Yeah.
And
Fuck
gets
Aaron
paid by
Mate.
the-
Yeah, fuck you.
Gets
Anyway,
paid
let's
by the
move on.
Russians.
Let's end the freaking pod. I can't.
Okay, see, that's what happens.
I can't
You
stand.
just
I
saw
can't
it.
stand that guy, and I can't stand the very intentional disinformation they put out there in regard to disgusting dictators around the world.
I can't stand that. I can't stand it. Screw you. I can't stand the disinformation that Aaron Mate has presented. Notice how they don't do a fact check. Notice how they don't highlight any key points. They don't do an investigation. They don't do a breakdown of what Aaron Mate got wrong. Because Aaron Mate didn't get anything wrong. The only reason they're going after him is because Aaron Mate, a true journalist who actually goes and investigates real reports and finds critical information to bring to you, they're jealous. TYT is jealous because Aaron Mate is a journalist. TYT is just a talking soundboard for the establishment. They pose themselves as outsiders, but really they're shilling as a corporate establishment. It's no different than CNN, no different than MSNBC. They're goddamn stooges, and that's why that's why Cenk Uygur and Aaron Kasparian are having a schoolyard fight with a journalist rather than correcting the record, rather than investigating and coming to their own conclusions. They're saying screw you to a journalist. That's the kind of garbage you get from this network. The kind of absolute garbage you get from these two. That even Roger Waters, a musician, even calls this out. Roger Waters, who has openly went after Cenk Uygur and Anna Kasparian, pointing out the obvious flaw that these two are not journalists. These two have not investigated. They have not done their actual research. They know nothing about the situation, and they're just repeating CIA talking points. And for reasons like Anna Kasparian getting an interview with a warmonger. Because that would be I would say that would be the only thing good enough to copy what the CIA, the intelligence community, is parroting to the media soundboard. That's the only reason you would do that, is to get an interview with warmongers like Madeleine Albright. Like this one here, it says, the view is that we have isolated ourselves. We are absent from a lot of things that need to happen, but we need friends and allies, says Madeleine Albright in an interview with Anna Kasparian. See the interview this afternoon on YouTube. That is Anna Kasparian. Look at that. Cozying up with a warmonger who's proud, made to fame, was saying that it was good to kill 500,000 babies. It was good. I mean, we had to do what we had to do. We had to kill young children. Young children that had nothing to do with anything. That's what garbage. That's what soulless piece of crap Anna Kasparian and Cenk Uygur really are. And they just exposed themselves even further. They've exposed their inner shadow to realize that they are failures. They have no morals. They have no insight to actually being journalists. No insight to being informers. And all they care about is their viewership, their ego, and their money. That's all this is about. They don't care about the facts. They don't care about getting the story out. They don't see a problem. They don't see a problem with any of this. But for most people, including their own viewers, they realize what frauds they are.